it's shocking but not surprising. We shut the economy down because we had a health crisis, so that it's not a surprise that we have an enormous number of people out of work. It is a shocking number. I think the challenge we have is the recovery will be dictated largely by the health situation and our ability to respond to it. None of us know precisely what level of return to normal we'll be able to go through and still stay safe. I think the best we're going to be able to do is getting partway back to where we were. I don't see people filling sports arenas or airplanes or crowding into restaurants anytime soon. So we know that there are going to be parts of the economy that are slow to recover, even if we come out of this well. That's a little different than when it started. When it started, there was the hope that because we went down immediately because of the health crisis, we could come out immediately. I think the best we're going to do is a slow recovery now. I think that when you look at the CBO forecast, the Congressional Budget Office forecast, they're showing unemployment averaging 10% in 2021 and ending next year, I think, at 9.5%. So we are facing a long haul, and I hope that as Congress responds in this next round of legislation, they put measures in place that provide critical relief like extended unemployment benefits that go until the economy recovers, not just to a date certain, which is way too short.
So it sounds like you think, Mr. Secretary, we're gonna need a lot more help and a lot more stimulus from Congress.
Yeah, I think that as long as people can't get jobs because the economy is on partial recovery, and as we're looking at an unemployment rate that's in the neighborhood of 10%, we need these kinds of extraordinary measures. My own view is we should keep things like extended unemployment benefits until we get, say, within 2 points of where we were before the crisis. We were at 3.5% unemployment, so until we're at 5.5 or 6% unemployment. We're a long way away from there. And I think that you can see from the character of the political debate, it's getting harder and harder to get these things done. So when they do business in these next couple of weeks, they ought to be looking ahead, not just the next 3 months or 6 months, but they should put a mechanism in place that keeps the relief there while it's needed. And they need to turn their attention to the terrible problems that state governments are having. They've lost, or are on the pathway towards losing, $650 billion of revenue. And they have expenses piling up because of dealing with the COVID crisis. Congress has appropriated $150 billion. That's not enough. That's why the Bipartisan National Governors Association is saying that there's a need for $500 billion of additional relief, and that goes to states all over the country. I hope that this does not get to be politicized, because what will happen if the states don't get relief is we'll be seeing layoffs of public employees, and those are the same people we're depending on right now to keep emergency services going, and it will hurt the economy if we have layoffs at a time when we need to be struggling to get people back to work.
So, Mr. Secretary, clearly you think more needs to come from the government, but what rating out of 10 would you give Secretary Mnuchin's handling of this so far?
You know, I think that the response early on was very slow from the administration to embrace the severity of the health crisis and, frankly, to weigh the balance of economic and health risks. The economy cannot do well if people can't go to work because they'd get sick. So I think getting our hands around this earlier would have been better for the health and economic trajectory. At the moment when they engaged with Congress to get an economic package in place, I have to give everyone credit for moving quickly. So, everyone knew it wouldn't be perfect. I have my criticisms and questions about some of the provisions, but moving with the speed that they did is admirable. I think in the execution, we still need clarifications and things like PPP. It was not a secret that small Main Street businesses did not have banking relationships that would get them to the front of the line. There needed to be guidance to get them to the front of the line. I hope that's being fixed now.
Mr. Secretary, we've been showing graphics from our States of Play survey that CNBC has done, polling about how people are feeling, whether they're feeling safe. And what's interesting is there's a stark contrast between Republicans and Democrats, we found, when it comes to whether they feel it's safe right now to go to hair salons, whether they feel like it's safe to get kids back at school. I mean, really big differences. Why do you think there's such a partisan divide on these issues right now?
I think at the national level, things have gotten very partisan. I think if you look at the states, Republican governors, many of them are dealing with this situation in a manner very similar to Democratic governors. You compare Ohio with Governor DeWine to California or New York. So I don't think it's simply party line. I'm not a political analyst. I don't do public opinion surveys. I think people are influenced by what they hear from the leaders that they respect. And I think it takes leadership for there to be an embrace that we need to do hard things in order to avoid worse outcomes and have better results. I don't think that leadership has been coming from the White House. It's been the opposite.
Has it been coming from Vice President Biden? Mr. Secretary, you endorsed him on our show a few months back. Do you think this whole crisis has increased his chances of winning the election in November?
Look, as I said on your show many months before anyone knew there was going to be a health crisis, in my view, Vice President Biden is the best qualified candidate for president and the one most likely to win in a race against President Trump. I still believe that today. I think if you look at what he said about the health crisis from the very early days in January, he's been saying all the right things. I know how he managed a crisis when I worked with him in the Obama administration. He was the person running the Recovery Act. He knew how to get things done. You have to deal with reality. You have to do the hard blocking and tackling of getting Congress and the governors and private sector into the right place to get things done. He knows how to do all those things. I think he would have performed in a dramatically different way. And, apart from governance and policy, there's moral leadership. I think the empathy that he shows to people who need help is so strikingly different than the lack of empathy that we see today. I've never seen it from a president of either party in my lifetime.